you didn't find writing lines like the docky dockies won't stoppy stoppy.
Okay, well that added to it in a very different way. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Seasonal Discharge. I am Aarlon, and today I'm joined by Tamika Likes to Draw, or Coco.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about the winter anime season of 2026. And the first show we're going to be talking about is Fate Strange Fake. Did I
Fate,
get it?
yes, Fate Strange Fake. That is correct.
Nice. And okay, first I want to open with Noah Stolfo, 0 out of 10.
I think by saying that, you might have actually just collectively made like any Fate fans watching this like cringe. Like, is that all you people care about? Get the fuck away from my Fate, you fucking degenerate.
And the other thing I was going to say is, as I was watching this, I was like, okay, well, it's a good thing that Coco is like a Fate fan and knows all about this stuff because I've got no idea what's going on. And
Well,
then
that's
immediately after you said, I have no idea what's going on.
that's a little bit of an overstatement. So as a result of this show becoming a thing, like obviously like it kind of revived the conversation about Fate on Twitter. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, at first I was kind of just seeing people talking about this, and I guess through engaging with tweets about this specific anime, I started getting like general Fate related tweets on my timeline. I mean, this was a show I w was gonna watch regardless because I was like, oh, that poster looks pretty cool, and that's never led me astray before.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, hey, it had the Fate name on it, and Fate. I mean, surely it wouldn't have this notoriety and like be shit. So like, I mean, like, I mean, it's Fate. I mean, come on. Although the reason why Arlon is describing me as a fan is because I did, in fact, literally yesterday or the day before, just finished binging the entire Fate Stay Night visual novel, and it was pretty good. But saying that I quote unquote know all about this stuff would be a little bit incorrect because Fate is infamously known to be like this giant multimedia franchise that has a lot of shit going on, and it is by design because Nasu, the mastermind behind the Fate franchise, is inspired by things like the Marvel Comics universe and very intentionally wants it to be like this broad universe with a lot of shit going on.
That is a choice.
One's degree of investment would vary from person to person. I mean, I liked Fate Stay Night. Um, it's actually funny because not too long before we watched this, I was watching the Digibro rants, and one of the rants that she did was about Fate Stay Night. And one of the points that she made, which honestly I think is pretty valid, is like, why would you continue to give a shit about Fate if it's not really related to like any of the stuff that you really care, that you actually care about? And as I was watching this, I was like, man, that is like so true. The only reason why you would like ever really like continue to engage with like the rest of the Fate franchise is if you like care about like more than just like the characters. Like you actually care about the lore, you actually care about the magic system, the concept of the Holy Grail War. I was saying in Digicord when I was like kind of like live posting my read through Fate Stay Night that like when they're like talking about the lore and shit, that's usually when I tend to check out. And it's not even just because of the lore itself, it's because Fate is so long-winded in explaining that stuff. Yeah, it's like, oh man, like, oh, there's like the magic that comes from humans and or like the air and mana is like magic that comes from humans, and it's like, oh, I'm surprised I even remember that, but that's probably because it was the last bit of lore that I was reminded of because they brought it up again towards the end of Heavensfield. And it's like, no, I'm definitely a person who like cares more about the characters more than that stuff. And if that's the case, then like your investment like across the Fate franchise is definitely going to vary because for one, the main characters, Shiro, Tosaka Rin, Elia, Saber as in
Saber was in this, Coco.
Saber as in Artoria,
You
Pen
you didn't like
Pendragon.
you didn't like Saber and his sexy feminine body.
Lol. Well, it's actually funny that you say that because one of the things that I find extremely laughable about Fate Stay Night is the fact that Saber uh is initially insecure about being seen naked by the main character because she feels like her body is rugged and too masculine because she's a knight and a king. And I feel like the author and the artist were on two different wavelengths. That is not the case. There is not a single bit of muscle on Saber's body whatsoever, literally none. Um, so that's what that reminded me of. But yeah, Artoria Pendragon is not in this. Or King Arthur, basically.
Oh, that reminded me. I have a
Yeah.
question. So
hmm
in Fate, I'm assuming the answer is yes because Astolfo exists. Like, does that mean if you have like a big buff knight like Saber in this, and you're a guy, do you have to have gay sex with him?
I mean, you would have to, I think, right? I don't know. Like I was saying
Why
before
don't
off
they
the
show
podcast.
that? They should show
Well,
that.
I mean, somebody told me that there is a gay relationship in Fate Zero, but I don't know how far true that is. All I know for sure is that apparently Gilgamesh is very popular in yaoi porn, and I feel like there's gotta be some kind of reason for that. So
Yeah.
if it turns out that like if I watch like Fate Zero and like fucking Kotomine and Gilgamesh have fucking gay sex, that would be fucking hilarious. Oh, by the way, Kotamine is that character that I said looks like my OC Angelo. That's
Yeah.
Kotamine. Yeah.
Nice.
They wouldn't have to because again, it's something you only have to do if you can't preserve your servant through your own magical energy, and you have to. Well, it's actually kind of weird because I guess if you can't do it, then wouldn't someone else have to? Because it's the same source. Whatever. It's weird. It's a thinly veiled excuse to have hentai scenes in the visual novel because they were worried that the visual novel wouldn't sell without them. Which actually kind of brings me to the first point about the actual show.
There's no hentai scenes. Where are the hentai scenes?
Well, no, I mean it's it's related. It's related more so to. So I don't really know much about Fate as we've just established. But one thing I do know is that Fate Stay Night, like originally, looked pretty different from how it turned out. Originally, the protagonist was a girl. Originally, Saber was a dude, and they didn't gender swap King Arthur. He was just King Arthur. There's an OVA called like Fate Stay Night Prototype or something. It's like an animated OVA that they made that was like based off of the scrapped concepts. And it kind of seems like in Fate Strange Fake, they're kind of like rehashing those concepts and turning it into like an actual story now, I guess. Fate Strange Fake takes place like 5 months after Fate Stay Night. So like obviously they're not like making like they're not double dipping, I guess, and having both a male and female King Arthur. This saber, I don't think is King Arthur. They question that the identity of this saber pretty early on, especially when he swears on his what was it, his loyalty to King Arthur. That was like the first giveaway. But like
Yeah.
the main character of this is also Ayaka something, who is the original version of the main character from Fate Stay Night, Emiya Shiro. So it kind of seems like they were like, Fate is popular enough that we can take this thing that we thought wasn't going to be financially successful way back in 2003 and just like make it a thing is pretty interesting. Although for some reason in this, I was kind of confused because Ayaka's blonde in this, but like in the prototype she's black. In the prototype OVA she's got black hair. She's not black. She has black hair. Although
There was a black cop in this.
yeah,
That
this takes
happened.
place in America, and one of the quickest ways Japanese like anime would try to communicate that this takes place in the States is to have a black person there. So there you go. Um, but like as far as the actual plot goes, I mean, as Arlon pointed out, I was a little bit lost and didn't really know what was going on.
It really
Um,
felt like just starting in the middle of something.
yeah.
It reminds me of some other seasonal we watched, or no, I watched that I talked about that you did not watch. And I can't
hmm
remember the name of it.
I mean, when I think of like an anime that kind of just throws you straight into things without really slowing down and telling you what's going on, I think of something like Metallic Rogue or Rouge or whatever it's called. You know,
Yes.
that one with the mecha suits or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, we're not going to explain any of this. I mean, it's fate. So there's another Holy Grail war going on. Uh,
Which they
I
call the Holy Grail War every time they say it, and it's really funny because it was the dub and it sounded really stilted.
yes. Well, you seem to not be particularly fond of this anime's dub in general.
Oh,
Uh,
I mean, actually, I was gonna say, like, as far as dubs go, it wasn't that bad. I mean, like, any dub is gonna reduce my enjoyment by like 20% if it was made in the last 10 years,
damn,
but
that is pretty steep. I will say, as far as Fate dubs go, Funimation or whoever are some lazy motherfuckers because the visual novel is not dubbed. So you'll just, it's basically like watching an anime subbed, only it's a visual novel. And I've seen some people say, well, they can't do that. There's like a fuck ton of content they'd have to record. And it's like, oh, yeah, so the Fate Stay Night visual novel was not, originally it didn't have any voice acting. Then the first anime got made, the subcast, and then they were like, fuck it. I guess for the re-release we can just have these guys add voice acting in it, which is pretty neat. And I think there is no excuse whatsoever for, I don't know, Funimation, Crunchyroll, whoever is in charge of the Funimation, the Fate dubs to do it, but to not do it, there's no excuse for it. But whatever, it's fine. I'm sure most people probably wouldn't have that audio on anyway, if we're being real, and that's probably why they won't. I don't know. The plot was a little bit confusing. You have Ayaka who's like seemingly being compelled to participate in the Holy Grail War against her will. She claims not to be a mage, but she also seemingly has a command spell on her body, but it's also not a command spell. Some guys kidnapped her and they tried to summon King Arthur, as in like Saber, Artorier, Pendragon. We get like a 10-second cameo from a character that we actually care about when they name her. We're not going to see her again, I'm assuming. And then we summon this other King Arthur, sorry, this other Saber who is not King Arthur, but design-wise seems like there could be a relation. So who knows? I mean, I kind of spoiled myself on this, and I already know this Saber's real name. I'm pretty sure they actually are in some way connected to Artoria because they have their surname is like Lion something, and King Arthur is like connected to lions. So, but sorry, what were you gonna say?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was kind of boring.
Fate, the visual novel anyway, is definitely a slow burn to start with, and it wouldn't surprise me. Well, I was gonna say it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing that here, but then episode two kind of just goes into the action like straight away.
I was actually like starting to get interested in the latter half of episode one, and then episode two kind of drained all my enthusiasm because it was just action happening and like I wasn't really
But,
invested in any of
but
these characters.
but Arlon, how could you not care about episode two? It had Gurugamesh.
The only character I liked in this was the male Saber. He was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean his personality is definitely more out there than actual Saber.
Incidentally, I feel like he his dub performance hurt him the most of any character because even though he wasn't bad, he like he wasn't bringing the energy he needed to be bringing to that character.
Damn, you know, Funimation, famously infamous for sometimes only doing one take. Uh, but nah, that's about it. I mean, there's like two different factions that seem to be trying to like influence the Holy Grail War to go one way or another. You have like this shadow organization that's like hidden within the police department, and then you have this other faction. that's like run by this little girl who's trying to like make a spectacle of the Holy Grail War, and I guess they're trying to like oppose that. The Einsburn family is somehow involved in this, and they're supposedly the reason why Ayaka is even here.
Yeah,
Um,
see the like I
and
I didn't get any of this. I was not
oh, well, I mean,
present enough to really follow that.
The Einsburn family is like one of the three main mage families in the original Fate Stay Night that like was like involved in the creation of the Holy Grail and the Holy Grail War.
They also don't explain what that is, and I mean I knew a little bit about it just through you talking about it, but I mean that kind of seems like something they should have just, take a little
Oh,
moment.
well, the Holy Grail is something that ostensibly grants your wish when you get your hands on it, and the Holy Grail War is like it was like a thing that was started by the three main mage families, the Tosakas, the Makiris, and the Einsburns. Um, I mean, it basically started because there were a bunch of assholes who couldn't agree to share the power of the Holy Grail War, the Holy Grail, or something to that effect. Although they, I guess, are civil enough to agree not to kill each other outside of when the Holy Grail War is currently happening. It was very confusing because the Holy Grail is something that like wills itself into like preparing to come, but then like it turns out that like that's not the case and that the Einsburns like actually prepare the Holy Grail in a person. Like a person is like the Holy Grail. Spoilers for the visual novel, I guess. And it's like it's very confusing. Uh I don't know if that's how they're gonna do it in this. It kind of seems like the way the Holy Grail itself like spawns is like totally random. It never actually spawns as the actual Holy Grail. Like they always show it as like is it a chalice? What is it called? I forget.
Sure, a
They always
chalice or a
they
grail.
they always show it as that, but it never is that. Like in the Fate route, it's like a fucking portal that's just spewing out a curse. And then in the Unlimited Blade Works route, it's just like a giant like temple-sized fucking flesh thing. And then in the Heaven's Feel, it's a woman. So like I mean, I think it's implied that it appeared as the actual Grail in like the Holy Grail War before Fate Stay Night because they talk about like how a character like gained immortality by being splashed by the contents of it at the end or something. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, this is clearly made for people who know what Fate is and have like I'm gonna assume this is probably the case for a lot of Fate content. A lot of it is not really made with like newbies in mind, you know?
Yeah.
Which is probably part of the reason why Fate, infamously known for being confusing, because like there are probably a lot of people who will be like, I'm gonna watch Fate. I'm gonna start with the most recent one. Let's say this is like 2016 or something. I'm gonna watch Fate Apocrypha, and that's the one that has Astolfo on it, so that's the one I'm gonna watch. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? And then you'll go on Fate Twitter, and then people be like, well, Fate is actually not that confusing, and it's like, bro, stop the cap. Um, that's just like a gripe I have with fan bases in general, where they'll be like knee deep in this shit. So like their
Yeah.
perspective is obviously different from a person who's like from the outside looking in. Kingdom Hearts
Hmm.
fans are guilty of doing this too. They'll be like, "Oh, Kingdom Hearts is not that confusing at all," and it's like you gotta be,
Sounds like the Linux fandom.
yeah. And no, it's
Look, I mean, what I'll say on that is like, I'm a Brandon Sanderson fan. So I'm
yeah,
no stranger to uh, giant multimedia universes with a bunch of different stuff you need to consume to understand everything that's going on.
yeah,
And I mean, I do think that can be a selling point because if you're looking for something that like is going to be like a special interest that's just like the one thing you care about, it's nice to have something that you, as much as you're willing to put into
engage with.
it, you will keep,
Yeah,
you will receive fruits for that, you know?
yeah.
But The drawback is like you're describing.
It's weird because I mean I can't say for sure because so far all I've really engaged with is like Fate Stay Night. I don't really know how connected like all of these things like really are. Obviously you have to like know what like the base concepts are, like what the Holy Grail War is, what a
Yeah.
servant is, etc. But I think for the most part these are like completely like isolated like story. Like for example, in the case of Fate Stay Night, I mean this is kind of what the point I was getting at earlier is that the main characters of that, there is only one piece of media that is actually like a direct sequel to that, and it's another visual novel called Fate Hollow Ataraxia or something like that, or Atraxia or something like that. It's like the only time where you're like hanging out with Shiro and Rin and Artoria Pendragon and et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, if that's like the level of investment that you have is those characters in particular, like that thing, Fate Stay Night, Hollow Atraxia, and I guess there's like a few anime, like this Carnival, whatever it's called, that you can watch. And then after that, it's like, okay, how much do I care enough about like the other stuff to like, you know, go and
Yeah.
play like Fate Grand Order, which is I guess like a mobile game, like a gotcha game or something.
But
And
Astolfo is in it, isn't he?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he is. That's where he debuted. Um,
Nice.
when it comes to Fate Great Under, I hear that like this the thing is if you're like into Fate for the story, you're not gonna play that because I hear that like it has some story, but it's like pretty underwhelming. And like it's kind of like a meme in the Fate fan base that like the most people thank Grand Order for is the buckets of porn that have come out of its wake. So
No.
it's but yeah, sorry, go on.
I think my issue with it really is I just don't find like I guess you like the characters, but I just
Hmm.
don't find anything I've heard about the world or the setup to be particularly captivating. When you start getting into Cosmere lore, when I hear that, I'm like, this is my shit. I'm all for expansive world building with like interesting. I like world building that makes everything feel bigger and gives me more questions, as we talked about a little bit in the Daima cast. So
Yeah,
when I hear like, oh, it's like I know you said people would get mad if we called it this, but it's like a death game.
yeah.
It's a death game. I guess I mean
Honestly,
there's
I
I
could
don't
be
know.
wrong on this because like I'm not I'm like for someone who's watched as much anime as I have, I'm still like a I still consider myself to be kind of an entry level weeb. I am I wrong in suggesting that Fate was kind of like the premiere of this genre, like the blueprint as it were. Is that incorrect? I mean, Fate came out in 2004, so like,
When
you
was
know,
Death Note written?
well, I mean, Death Note's not a death game.
It's kind of like a death game.
I would I think the first example that people think of when they think of a death game anime is Future Diary. And Future Diary is definitely structured a lot like Fate Stay Night, if you ask me. I wouldn't be surprised if that was like a pretty core influence for that.
Hmm.
But I mean, to your point, I was talking about how episode two goes straight into the action. One of my favorite moments, the Fate Stay Night visual novel, is when the characters are kind of just hanging out, talking about stuff, not even necessarily related to the Holy Grail War, just bouncing off of each other and goofing off. You know, it kind of, if you're like someone who like dislikes death game stuff, but you like, let's say you like slice of life stuff or you like romance or whatever, you might appreciate the fact that like, it is kind of like mostly that. Because I feel like it's like maybe like, let's say even if it's not necessarily like low stake stuff, let's say 60% characters talking and then like 40% action. It definitely helps that like you're seeing things from the perspective of like your main characters and like half the time other characters are like chipping other masters off. So that kind of like cuts down the action a little bit. But unfortunately, from what I understand, because I haven't seen that many Fate or any Fate anime productions, except for what we watched for this, they're kind of infamous for watering down the slice of life aspect and kind of just focusing entirely on the action, especially the movies, because most of the adaptations of Fate Stay Night, I believe, are movie adaptations, except for one of the Fate route and Unlimited Blade Works. From what I understand, it's weird because at first I was under the impression that the first Fate Stay Night anime by Studio Dean is generally considered to be pretty bad. Because it does like a weird thing where it tries to like mix in adapting all the routes after talking about it more with like other people who like Fate Stay Night, it kind of seems like some people consider it to be like among one of the better adaptations because it actually gives a shit about like adapting the slice of life moments. And, I appreciate that. I can appreciate that in spite of the ways it might have undercut like being a truly faithful adaptation to these routes. Watching like say for example the Heaven's Feel movies or the Unlimited Blade Works movie, that it sounds kind of exhausting to be honest. Like one thing I've realized about myself, I mean I've talked about it before, I think on the Dimecast, is that people like to call me a shonen.
Right.
I feel like that's not true in the slightest at this point. I feel like it's just emphatically not true. The number of battle shonen I've watched is actually pretty small. And one thing I've definitely realized about myself recently is that I find drawn out action that is long to be kind of exhausting. So the idea of like watching like nonstop action without any downtime in like say an Unlimited Blade Works movie is like I'm not very keen on that. And I might enjoy it if anything because I've already read the visual novels. It's hard to imagine getting attached to the characters when you don't have that there. And, it kind of feels like Strange Fake might run into the same problem. It's too early to tell. I mean, to be honest, some of the posters of this kind of give the impression that it's like it might become like a road trip type thing. I'm not sure.
Ah.
But then I've also heard people describe it as fight slop, which sounds par for the course for like animated adaptations of Fate, which is kind of unfortunate. It kind of confuses me that if what I've heard is true, it kind of confuses me that the Dean anime is generally considered to be the worst because it sounds like it's the one that's like the best at like balancing out all the genres that the original Fate Stay Night visual novel was trying to appeal to. But it's hard to say. I'd have to actually watch these first.
Yeah, I guess you got to watch all of them to see for yourself.
Well, um, I actually do intend to watch the Dean adaptation of Fate Stay Night. I don't know if I want. I mean, Dean made a movie adaptation of Unlimited Blade Works, but I kind of don't want to watch that, and I'll probably just watch the series. But I also heard that the series is kind of boring because oh, I guess this is part of the reason why some people don't appreciate when they adapt the downtime is the huge lore drops that Fate is kind of infamous for. So, I mean, I guess if you're if you're someone who's complaining about if you're watching Fate Strange Fate, for example, and you're someone who's like, well, it doesn't seem like it takes the time to slow down and actually explain this stuff, I guess it's because people don't want that. They
Ooh.
actually do just want the Fate anime to be fight slop, which is kind of unfortunate. So,
From everything I've heard, not super interested in consuming more of this or any other Fate thing, but I
damn.
appreciate you, Coco, for exposing me to Fate through osmosis because it does feel like a pretty important cultural touchstone that I was totally ignorant to before you started talking about it.
Well, Faye was kind of on my radar for like a while, uh, because of the reasons you just stated, but I never really like seriously considered like actually engaging with anything. I didn't know anything about Fate like at all. Like, for example, when I heard like the term unlimited like Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, I just thought it was like a remake of like the original Fate anime or something. I didn't realize it was like adapting all the roots separately, which I've never seen that before when it comes to anime adaptations of visual novels. They usually just like Yosuga no Sora, for example, it does do adaptations of Roots, but it's all contained within like a singular series. And I imagine compared to I mean, Yosuke no Sora itself is a decent anime, but I
They
imagine
should do that for Orihime.
it's significantly watered down compared to, the actual visual novel because every route gets like 3 episodes. And I imagine that's not really doing justice to them. So I guess I can see why with Fate they'd be like, fuck that. We want to do justice to everything. So we're gonna make 2-hour movies where we cut out, you know, but whatever. I've already
Yeah.
ranted about that.
Noah Stolfo 0 out of 10, but actually like probably like a
Oh,
5 out of 10. I'll
yeah,
upgrade it to 7 out of 10 if they have gay sex in it. That's
bruh.
it.
I just want to say, Sawano, mix it up, bro. I was able to tell that was you doing the music for this without even looking, and I looked. Find some new instruments, bro. It's getting old. You
Damn.
gotta mix it up. It's actually kind of unfortunate because some people actually are like, Sawano was like kind of generic at this point, and it's like you really gotta mix your shit up at this point if people are saying that. How do you go from number one being number
Well,
one to
the
being
problem
generic?
is though that it's also kind of a typecasting thing. It's
Yeah,
like, you can say Jack Black or Adam Sandler are one note, but when the director comes to you, Jack Black or Adam Sandler, he's looking for you to be a wacky, goofy guy.
yeah.
So you can't mix it up.
I mean, that's kind of true because when you listen to like his well, I'm assuming they're non-anime music, but they could be, and I just find the original track before the anime it's in. But it does sound a little bit more varied. So I guess what I'm saying is anime directors let Sawano flex his chops, I guess.
Yes.
And also, this is actually a 10 out of 10 because it has Gurugamesh.
Next is Tune into the Midnight Heart.
Yeah,
This was a comedy anime.
it was a rom-com anime. You
Yeah.
gotta get your genres correct. Comedy and rom-coms aren't the same. Those are two totally different genres.
So I guess the premise of this is the main character is Arisu Yamabuki. He's
Yeah,
like from a super rich, successful family.
the
Uh,
Yamabuki group.
yeah. And the whole gag of his character, I guess, is that he's 99% perfect.
He's also a very eccentric, very high energy guy who's passionate about everything.
Yeah, he's eccentric. He's kind of like a Burt California type.
hmm
And we quickly find out that he wants girls to say I love you because he's looking for a specific
Because
girl.
he's developed a parasocial relationship with an audio streamer, I guess, because I guess that's a thing. And he wants all these girls to say I love you to him so that he can find her through the sound of their voice because he doesn't
Yeah,
know what
this
she looks
this
like.
streamer Apollo when he
Yeah.
was a kid. I guess it's like a chat. I don't really understand how that works. That's a chat room and he was like actually talking with her.
Maybe he was the one guy who called in.
They had like kind of a romance.
We're doing call-ins now. We're gonna let in the one guy watching into the call-in segment now.
I guess that could be the case.
Yeah.
So he through his genius and eccentricity, he has narrowed down the location of where she should be to around this school, probably at this school.
This guy is a stalker because through her saying that she wants to go to an all-girls school that has like a specific view, he's able to narrow it down to the specific all-girls school. And then he goes to the brother school that's an all-male school on the off chance that they might become a co-ed school, which they do, making his quest to find her that much easier.
Yes.
All according to Keikaku.
So then a girl approaches him and she says something to him, and he's like, "Oh shit, I think that's her." And then he hears her on the school announcements, and he's like, "Oh shit, I think that's her." So he runs to the school announcements room, and he opens the door, and there's four girls there, and all four girls sound like this streamer Apollo.
They all sound like her in various different ways,
Yeah,
based on the archetype that they are. The angry tsundere, the quiet kudere.
which like okay. I mean, I'm just calling it now. It's the brown-haired girl, obviously.
I mean, it's either that or it's all of them.
That. Oh yeah, I guess they could because then you get the harem ending. It's like actually they all are in love with him, and that's why they stopped streaming.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say it's the brown-haired girl.
I mean, I feel like if it does turn out to be the brown-haired girl, they made it like kind of obvious from the start because she's like the first one.
Well,
Uh,
that's why I'm saying
yeah,
it's like she's too much of the female lead not for it
the
to
main
not be
the
her.
main heroine type vibe.
Yeah. It's, it's one of
I
those
kind
things
of
where it's
I
like,
really hate when they do that in anime, by the way. Like I think of anime like Love Hina or like Nis I mean, don't get me wrong, Love Hina is the goat. Nisekoi is not the goat, but I think of anime like Love Hina and Nisekoi, and they'll do that, and then they'll like kind of try to do like a red herring or whatever, where they'll like be like, wait, there's like another girl that was like there around the same time, and he like made a similar promise. So it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna do like a little like we're adults now. Like the promises that we make as children shouldn't really be dictating how we. No, we're actually gonna commit to the trope, and we're actually gonna, you know,
bruh.
it actually was Naru that Keitaro made the promise to in Love Ina, even though we went out of our way to establish way earlier in the series that Naru would have been way too young for it to have been her, but somehow we have just gone and rewritten the whole story to make it so that it actually was her. I hate that shit.
But it's like, I don't know. Uh, Elf was never gonna win in Aeromaga Sensei. So like, I feel like in
Yeah.
the same way, like the only way
Well, what I
it's the
mean is
other
that
girls.
I like the idea of the promised girl that they made the childhood promise with not actually being the main heroine, and he actually there. I feel like I haven't seen a romance anime that starts off with this trope, and then he actually is just like, no, I actually want to move on with this other person who actually is the main heroine.
Well, that kind of happened in Ori Emo because that his childhood friend was evil and she hated incest.
In Manga Sensei, it actually just was that a normal promise between the main character and Sagiri. Which kind of just reminds me of when on content they were like, man, can you imagine if it turned out that like Sagiri actually orchestrated their parents getting married just so that they could just so they could finally meet? Now that would be
She
quite
would.
a twist.
She would. But anyway.
He finds out that they're incredibly incompetent at their job at being the
Oh
broadcast
yeah.
team.
Yeah, so he can't tell which of them it is, and he's following them around to try and figure out. And as he's following them around, he observes that they all suck at voice acting.
Well, the first hint he got of them being incompetent was over the when they made the broadcast thing that made him finally decide to go and see if it's actually her at the broadcast club. The audio
Yeah.
was terrible. So he's like, I'm gonna join your club now because I've learned how to work in audio because I made the promise way back when that I would learn to work in audio to help because the Apollo, much
Yeah.
like the girls, also wants to pursue a career in voice work or related
Yeah,
to voice work.
Apollo said she wants to be a voice actor, and he was like, "I'm gonna help you be the best voice actor ever."
Yeah. So he found out that they're incompetent at the various things they're aspiring to be.
So it's like a personal insult for him because it's like, oh, she forgot our
He,
promise.
he also does not like the fact that the school are kind of everyone in the school are kind of just enabling them being incompetent because they find the various ways in which they are to be kind of cute and endearing, I guess. So he's like, nah, I'm not gonna be like you guys. I'm gonna help girls become really good at whatever careers they're pursuing.
And it was pretty based,
Hmm.
not enabler Chad.
Yeah.
And then the one girl said that
Ah, yes. The English script for this is a work of art. We watch this dubbed because whenever I'm the one who's streaming the anime we're watching, I watch them dubbed. And oh boy, I gotta say, the script for this
someone
was
said Baka. That was pretty
this,
cool.
this script was something else, man. Because when the kudere girl is like in her feels because of the guy's passion, she's like the Doki Dokis won't stoppy stoppy. Even and in the
Yeah.
subs, she's just like my heart is beating really fast or whatever. And then the fucking tsundere girl, when like the main character is like interrupting the broadcast because she's doing it terribly, she barges in and she's like, "What the hell do you think you're doing, baka?" And it's like, "Uh, yes, this is what I defend dubs for, okay? When I defend dubs, this is exactly what I have in mind when I'm defending dubs." Uh,
I just want to say, like,
Holy shit. Why did they think this was acceptable?
I just want to say it's so much worse because it's a show about voice acting. So
Yeah.
I'm supposed to believe that these girls want to be professional voice. I mean, I guess they can because they are professional voice actors. But when I hear them, and like, okay, at
I mean,
one point,
I don't think the voice acting itself is terrible. The things that really take me out of it are
mm,
lines like the doggy doggy won't stoppy stoppy,
I
or
I mean, I hear you. I do hear you. However, I mean, actually, I was gonna say the main guy in this. I mean, I did say his child self kind of reminded me of Mokuba and Yu-Gi-Oh, but then I was thinking about it, and his adult self also kind of reminds me of a Yu-Gi-Oh performance, which is kind of interesting. But
might be the same voice actor.
no, I don't think so. It was just like his intonation.
Uh,
But anyway, there's just a scene in this where like when the tsundere like some people ask her to do a reading of some manga they have,
yeah.
and she's reading some lines from it, and they're like cheering and swooning for her. And I couldn't help but feel like I would not cheer and swoon for that if I heard someone doing those readings.
You know, it kind of reminds me of like when people would ask like I mean, I haven't seen FMA, so but there's apparently like a really iconic scene that people really liked Vic Mignogna's reading of. And whenever he goes to a con, people ask him to do that line reading.
Yeah,
That's what that kind of reminds me of. Although I guess it's not the same because she doesn't actually voice act this character. But you know,
yeah, she's just some person.
it's also weird because like when I'm trying to imagine being a voice actor in a thing, and then you're like, okay, but now the character is voice acting, so like you actually have to like put on a voice now. Which, to be fair, I feel like the Kudere character actually, the person voicing her was definitely able to do an okay job of changing her voice when she's VTubing and then doing a different voice when she's just talking normal. I
Yeah.
thought she did okay. There was an
It's interesting because doing an anime voice is already what VTubers do. So she
yeah.
kind of has to double up on it because she's like normal anime voice, but then it's like animeception. Now because she's already imitating an anime character, she has to do a double anime character imitation.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in this case it was like she was appealing to two different archetypes because one is just like the regular Kudere voice, and then one was the slightly higher pitch, shy thing.
Yeah.
I also don't like when in anime they're actually fully aware of the fact that the person is trying to embody a specific archetype. They do actually say she's trying to be the shy but assertive anime girl, and it's like sick. Okay.
I thought this was pretty good.
Oh, I thought you wanted to talk about how confusing the ending of the episode was.
What was confusing about the ending?
Well, we couldn't tell if she actually,
Oh yeah, what was up with that?
yeah.
What was up with that?
So basically, after he declares that he's going to, help all these girls improve their respective voice-related careers, he gets kicked out of the classroom, and then he receives a message from Apollo, but the way that the scene is directed, you kind of can't tell if that's he's receiving that message over like live stream or if she's actually saying that over the PA
Yeah.
system in the school. I mean, what the scene is supposed to convey is that like Apollo is his hunch about Apollo being at the school was correct and that she has received his message, but she's not yet willing to reveal her identity.
Yeah. She was like confirming like, yeah, I actually do like reciprocate your feelings
Yeah.
and like, yeah, I'm actually here just so you know, but like I'm not going to tell you which girl I am. Like that's kind of what the speech sounded like. But then like they were cutting to him listening on his phone, and also it's like what, well, that would be weird if she was saying that over the school broadcast, but that's, it also wouldn't make sense if she said that in a flashback.
I don't think that was I don't think that was over the broadcast system because they were kind of
So
like
you
they were
think she
cutting,
like sent him an audio clip?
yeah, because they were like cutting back and forth between her saying that, but then all four girls like doing the normal broadcast at the same time.
Okay, I
So
guess that makes sense.
so
Okay.
it couldn't have been, but the directing was a little bit
Yeah.
confusing on that one.
Oh, we also left out the epic comedic twist of the episode, which is that he is not looking for Apollo to like confess to her or something. He's specifically looking for Apollo because as a kid listening to her broadcast, she when she signs out, she's like, "All right, everybody, I love you," and he said, I love you too, Apollo."
Yeah.
And now he thinks that was such an embarrassing moment that he needs to find her and get access to her hard drive to delete any clips of him saying that.
Yeah, because as we've established earlier, he's the heir to the Yamabuki group,
It's the
and
last 1%. That's why he's only 99% perfect is he
he
posted
doesn't
cringe once.
he doesn't want online simping for a streamer to be used against him in his career. Being horny on main. Well, it's not really horny on main. Being romantic on main, I guess.
Yes, which
Um,
is worse than being horny on main because that sincerity is the worst thing you can do on the internet.
yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yes.
One other thing I wanted to talk about is I have actually seen a fair bit of people talking about this anime on Twitter, and I gotta say, and comparing it to the manga, and I gotta say, this anime looks like shit. Like the coloring is okay, but the line art is like really bad, and I think this is definitely one of those anime that, assuming this is like still a thing that happens, will definitely be drastically improved in like Blu-ray releases or whatever. When you compare shots of this to the manga, it's like, oh my God, what happened? What is going on?
I
Yeah.
thought it looked fine. I did notice a couple moments where it wasn't very well animated,
hmm
like it's kind of moving manga type moments. But I thought rendering wise, it was fine.
Actually, what's the studio that did this? I know the director who did this did a classic. They did Butareba. Okay, they did the that's the pig isekai. Um, they
Bruh.
directed that. So, oh, I guess they were the assistant director on Reborn as a Vending Machine as well. But
Which I also don't like.
damn, oh, the studio is a studio I've not heard of. It's called Gecko Studio. Okay, well,
Yeah, they do. It's like a bunch of isekai type stuff. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I I liked the whole hook. I think the fact that the main character actually has a personality made it
oh,
enjoyable.
that is actually a very good point because my least favorite thing about any romance or harem thing is when the main character, I mean, don't get me wrong, they still did this in the marketing. The main character himself is barely visible in any of the posters, but I don't like when the main character clearly exists for no reason other than the audience to interact with these girls. That is
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah, I feel like they established an emotional core. The whole promise thing, it all worked for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm invested in their relationship, and I want to, I want them to be reunited and everything. And clearly, he clearly is still interested in her, regardless of what he's saying.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he still wants to help her and cares about the promise he made kind of communicates that there's clearly a bit
Yeah.
more going on there than wanting to recant a confession, an embarrassing confession.
And even though it was a dub, so I enjoyed everything 20% less,
Bruh.
uh, I did still find it pretty funny, and I laughed at quite a few of the jokes. It was pretty
You
good.
didn't find writing lines like the docky dockies won't stoppy stoppy
Okay, well that
to be.
added to it in a very different way. I guess that is something. I can appreciate that in a sense.
I was actually looking at the person who wrote this, and it just reminded me of the fact that, like, yes, sometimes for no reason at all, Funimation or Crunchyroll would just be like, "You're part of our company. We know that all you do is voice acting, but we'll have you write the script. Fuck it, why not?" Because this person's a voice actor, and they had them write the script.
You
I
know
think.
what? I'll put it this way. I would rather the episode have had those lines in it than not. Because my issue isn't actually those terrible localizations.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. Listen, if you're someone who's like, we gotta translate this as accurately as possible, there you can't get any more accurate than literally just saying the Japanese word. So the fact that, so if I see any like, people who like say stuff like, oh, this is a lol cowlizer. I mean, if I see you making fun of lines like, what do you think you're doing, Baka? That just tells me that you're not really serious about, you know, having 100% faithful
Ooh.
localization because it doesn't get any more accurate than literally just saying the Japanese word.
Yeah, I'd give it like a strong 6 to a light 7 based on the first episode. I might
Hmm.
watch more. I mean, this feels like the kind of show that will go nowhere for 100 episodes or 100 chapters, but
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with when you're like, I've got a premise. Oh, but I don't actually have anything else. Oh, shit. Oh,
damn.
I thought it was okay.
Nice. Next is The Invisible Man and His Soon to Be Wife.
Talk about spoilers. Oh,
Yes. I was a little bit confused about the setting.
that's like the one note I have is
I,
I noticed early on in the episode there were a bunch of furries, and I was
yeah.
I was really confused. I was
Is
like,
this like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
I was expecting this to be like a grounded story that just happened to have an invisible guy in it. Where like everything
Yeah.
about the setting is realistic except for the fact that there's an invisible dude. Now, my personal headcanon of this is that it takes place in the world of My Hero Academia, and all the weird people that we're seeing are a bunch of people with quirks, and this is actually the origin story of Invisigal's parents.
I guess that checks out.
It's How I Met Your Mother, but for Invisigal.
Yeah. The plot of the I mean it's like a 4 panel comic type thing, so there's not a lot of plot, but the premise is that it's like the invisible man works at a detective agency, and then the girl is, I guess, a secretary there.
Yeah,
Uh,
something like that.
yeah, she's a secretary there, and they have just started dating, sort of, at the beginning of the show.
Have they started dating?
Well, they're on their first date, and they decide that it's a date as they're like, she's like, oh, is this a date in her head? And then he confirms it's a date.
Oh.
Oh, and the secretary is blind. So that's like the gimmick. It's like, oh, the invisible man and a blind girl. So it's like the perfect match.
And the one person who can kind of sort of see him is the person that can't see it all.
Yes.
And then cute hijinks into where we get to see them being cute and bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, it's just standard
Yeah,
comfy romance anime with a bunch. I was thinking about this. I feel like for these 4 panel manga, you just need to adapt it into a short. Like it just feels wrong to adapt it into a 20-minute episode because it clearly wasn't meant to be consumed that way.
what they do, I could be wrong on this, but what they typically tend to do with stuff like this, like I feel like Tula Ru kind of did this at one point in the OVA specials, where they'll basically just take a bunch of chapters and put them into one episode. It's basically a compilation of chapters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're they're basically forcing you to binge a bunch, and
There's
it's
there's
not
one of
designed to be consumed that way.
there's one of two formats to how they approach adapting stuff like this, because there'll be shows like Senyu where it's like, yeah, it's a 4 coma, so we're just gonna have each episode be like 2 minutes.
That's how it should be.
Yeah,
I guess I liked the furry lady. She was kind of cute.
I like the fact that this anime does both the type of furry girl that you like and the furry girl that you hate, because in the background we do see, like, this is when I first noticed the furry thing. There was like some girl who just looked like a regular anime girl but with dog ears, and like for a second there I was like, oh wait, no, it must be like an accessory or something. And then like 10 seconds after that it's like, oh wait, there's a walking rabbit. What the fuck? Judy Hopps is there. And like I love how you're just thrown into it, like no nothing, no setup. It's just yeah, this is the world that we're in.
You know, that reminds me of the one of the manhwa I was just reading a while back. Uh, did have the furries I hate, and then it was like twist. Those are actually mixed. Those are like the offspring of a human and a full-blooded furry. And they were like
Oh, they're biracial.
specifically they had like a bunch of captured furry slaves so they could force them to give birth to the half-breeds so
Bruh.
they could use them as slaves. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
So what happens if like a furry, like a full furry, like gets it on with just like a regular dog?
Bruh. Well, that was actually a thing they talked about in the that anime we watched last season with the furries that I hated.
Oh yeah, the one with the dog guy who was being predatory towards his love interest.
Yeah.
I remember that shit.
There were things I appreciated about this. I did like how they kind of showed a little bit of the parallels between the blind girl and the invisible man. They kind of frame the invisibility in an interesting way that it if you really think about it, it too is a disability.
He like struggles to pick up stuff. The way he was trying to pick up that book, he had to like tap it at least 3 times to be able to properly pick it up because he can't see his own hand.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's various stuff. There's the kid runs into him with the ice cream. He gets a cut at one point and he's saying like I don't actually know how bad this cut is because I can't see my arm. I can only see the blood coming out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some neat stuff about it.
And then there was you being able to see him swallow the tea.
Yeah, that was a a nice little detail.
Oh, I guess he also has the ability to be able to like make things he's holding invisible as well.
Dude, they should have. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And he can make his clothes invisible. They should have showed that at the restaurant though. But I mean, they kind of did. But
Just
they,
him swallowing food.
yeah, exactly. Like they sort of show the food like disappear, like when he's eating the ice cream. But it was not like the tea where you see it go down his throat. They should have shown the chewed food go down his throat for
Yeah,
realism.
maybe on the next date.
Yes. I also want to note that they showed a computer screen at one point, and it looked like they were running Windows XP.
Nerd.
Just thought that, I mean, that's pretty old at this point. It's like a 20-year-old operating system, guys. We got to move on. 6 out of 10. It was fine. Not my type of show, though.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would need 10 cans of fizzy drink and 6 spoonfuls of Adderall to be able to watch this.
Next is Sentenced to Be a Hero. I don't remember this one super well because it's been a hot minute since I watched it. But if memory serves,
That whole first episode was basically just nonstop action, wasn't it?
yeah, there honestly was not that much content considering it was like an hour long first episode.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I also really felt like I could see, like when I was watching it, I felt like I could perceive where the episode breaks should be. So I don't get why that was one episode.
I just want to say this, I don't know how the manga or the light novel is structured, but I don't appreciate because I know that there is a thing that's happening in the anime adaptation of the medium. I don't appreciate when they're like, yeah, we're gonna throw you straight into the action because we want to hook you with like some Sakuga really well animated action shit. Because the whole time I'm kind of just there like, okay, but what's the context though?
That's like how we got some insight into the Netflix studio notes from that one dude that made a Netflix movie. And that
Yeah.
was one of the notes that like you have to have action in like the first minute.
No, this is 100% like an actual thing. 'Cause I can't remember what anime it was, but there definitely were some people talking about like, yeah, no, the manga does not start like this. They literally like restructured it so that they could hook you in with action, and it's like, eh,
I just don't get that because for me, if a show starts with action, that's a good way to lose my interest because it's boring.
yeah,
Action is boring if you're not invested
especially if
in the
you're not
characters.
invested. Yeah, you have to give a shit.
But I guess this is a difference between us and the normies because that's like half of all movies now is just action.
Yeah,
The premise of the show is that there's I guess heroes in this world. You know, it's the kind
if
of twist
you're
on the
if you're a
generic.
criminal, you get sentenced to be a hero, literally,
Yeah,
I
it's
guess.
kind of a twist on the generic anime fantasy setting, except that in this case, the heroes are prisoners with bomb collars.
Yeah, they have command spells on them.
Yes, but they don't have to have gay sex,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
that we know. We've only seen episode one.
Yeah, so they do a pretty good job with like the building up stakes. They definitely build up the demons in this one quite a bit as like yeah, these are actually like a real threat and not just something we're mowing down.
Not
Well,
fodder.
at first. In the first half they do at least.
Yeah,
So they're kind of struggling to take these guys down and the main character he's kind of a badass and he's one of these hero prisoner people.
and he looks like, well, he doesn't look like Cloud Strife if he dyed his hair black. But he has the hairstyle. It's the same hairstyle as Cloud, original Cloud, I should say, from original FF7,
And then he's got a sidekick character that he's like a little wiener
and a thief.
and a thief. He stole he stole like a coffin, which was an interesting choice.
Yeah,
It turns out he stole it from like the church, like the priest order or whatever. And it turns out that this coffin was being used to transport a goddess. So they just accidentally stole like a live goddess
yeah,
and they're like, "Oh shit. What that's not good."
and it wakes up and it imprints immediately on Xylo, the main character.
Well, I think it's because he's giving her he's nagging her. he's unintentionally nagging her, and she's like, why isn't this guy into me? I'm a goddess. He's got to be into
He's
me.
playing hard to get. I mean,
Yeah.
she definitely is very desperate for his approval. She keeps constantly begging him to compliment him, to compliment her.
And give her head pats.
So there's like a thing where they have like the goddesses are like these weapons that they assign to like team captains or something, I guess.
The main character, for some reason, he hates goddesses, and he keeps saying like, goddesses suck ass. Like, you guys suck. I'm not gonna give you head pats.
Yeah.
He clearly he has like an open disdain for them. He's very bitter.
It seems a little bit misplaced based on
Okay, we'll get to that. We will get to that. But the whole hero thing is kind of weird because like the priest order has normal uh not in air quotes heroes, just like
night,
soldiers,
regular
knights,
night.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um
The backup squads, you know? It's like the Suicide Squad or something.
it is, but it's just kind of weird that they would be called the heroes at that point, I
Well,
guess.
they specifically call them penal heroes. You've been
Huh,
penalized to be a
interesting.
hero, I guess. Penal hero.
Okay. They encounter some of these knights, and the knights like really don't like them.
Yeah.
The knights are like ready to throw hands the second they meet up.
They are ungrateful pricks despite the fact that they got their lives saved by these heroes twice. And also they they know that like these are like a thing, like a government sanctioned thing.
I guess they just don't trust them because they're scared they'll like fly off the handle or
Like
something.
they make it seem like there's like at first the impression you'd get is like there's some kind of fringe like shadow organization that like people are aware of, but it's like no, it's like a publicly
I wasn't really getting that. I just assumed it was like, oh wait, these guys aren't like allies. They're people who did horrendous crimes, and that's the reason they're here.
yeah, I don't know, it felt a little bit weird.
These guys, they're kind of going full samurai. There's a demon lord approaching, and despite the fact that like the order told them to retreat, they decided they wanted to die in glorious battle.
Yes.
So they broke rank and went to try and fight the demon lord and basically get themselves killed.
Because honor is all that matters.
Yes, the main character having the main character boost is just super badass. So he like immediately teleports over there. They're like immediately gonna be getting wiped out, and he like easily is clearing out the demons. But then like the demon lord, it's like too much. The goddess like convinces him through the urgency of the situation to like make a pact with her,
Yeah.
and then he immediately is kicking ass, and it's like 30 minutes of him kicking ass.
And she also did the Babylon move that I forgot the name of.
Is it like floating swords?
Yeah, you can like summon like multiple well, not just swords, but in the case of Unlimited Blade Works, which is a similar move, it is infinite swords. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's like copying a real myth thing. Because
probably.
I think if you've got like enough key or something, you can reach a level where you can control swords with like telekinesis.
Yeah, that's in a lot. That's in a lot of. I think like the main character can even do that in like Final Fantasy 15.
Hey, Star Wars should rip that off. They already rip off martial arts stuff all the time. They should rip that off.
Man, what's his name? Fucking like Grievous 2.0 sounds so built for that. He would. Four lightsabers. Now get ready for unlimited saber works. Oh, it's just
Yes.
called Gate. It's just called Gate of Babylon. Lol.
Saber, my waifu,
Yes.
they managed to take down the demon lord. I did find it interesting, by the way. They kind of went the more quote unquote grounded system on will actually do this quite a bit, where they'll have like the fantasy races like named after the stuff. So there'll be like goblins and orcs and whatnot, but they won't actually look like those. They'll just look like weird alien things. And they did that here. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, I guess I appreciate trying to not be generic, but it's kind of like the worst direction, like the most boring direction to go with it because generic, or I mean, not generic, but like just weird bug alien things is not like very memorable.
It's been a while since I've seen Decadence, but I feel like that's what it kind of reminds me of is the monsters and that.
I feel like Decadence had more interesting monsters than this.
It's been a hot minute, but that was one of the things that I thought of watching this. I was just really caught by the attention that like the seventh demon lord that they were fighting has an eye penis. That's pretty unique demon design right there. So
I forgot about that, but now I remember. We finally get the backstory of why he hates how, you know, how he became a penal hero and why he hates gods. Oh, I guess we like earlier on got the hook of that he killed his god. Someone mentioned that. And immediately I was like, oh no.
well
They're
they specifically don't mention that until like right before the episode, but before he's willing to like sign the contract, we get a flash of the flashback of him killing a goddess.
well, I
Um,
think the commander lady that wanted
yeah,
to
yeah,
shit, what's the word? The kamikaze. She wanted to kamikaze the aliens.
yeah.
She wanted to die in glorious battle. Yeah, I think she was the first one to. She said to the goddess that he killed his god, and the goddess is like, "What? My like, she's all shocked, and she's like, "Ah, this guy that I'm totally infatuated with that I've literally known for like 10 minutes."
She imprinted. It kind of reminds me of like Heaven's Lost Property.
Oh well, that's how you know it's good.
That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of fucking just like Icarus just being like, "Oh, you're like the first person that I encountered when I came to Earth, so you're my master now."
In their defense, I feel like it's not that bad because the main character here is pretty badass and cool and aloof. So I can understand immediately imprinting on him, unlike actual predator in the case of Heaven's Lost Property.
Lol.
But anyway, I was very worried. Like, I was pretty interested at first. I liked him not liking gods. I figured, oh, like, there's probably going to be a good reason for that.
You were like, "Oh man, my Reddit atheism is being represented in."
No, just like maybe coming from a more grounded, he's the street level guy, and she's the sheltered goddess who only interacts with the high priests or whatever. That's where I thought they were going with
The
it.
1%.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking she was gonna have like a super sheltered and naive worldview, and now she has to like see the gritty reality on the ground. But instead, we got something much lamer than that, and it immediately just completely destroyed my interest in this show, which is that actually his previous god was just too good, and she sacrificed herself to save him. And for some reason, his reaction to that was, I hate gods.
That was confusing because it's like
Yeah.
I can understand why he wouldn't want to form any other because it's obviously like an attachment thing.
Yeah.
Hedgehog's dilemma. Watch Evangelion. Um, and it's like, oh, I want to protect myself from forming that same attachment and not wanting to, but I don't really get how that translates into him hating goddesses. I don't really get it. But also, there was a line of dialogue that he said that was like when he formed his contract with this other goddess, where he was like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm throwing my life away again. So maybe even though he developed that attachment to her and obviously he also kind of resents having worked that kind of job in the first place, especially given the fact that working that job is what put him in his current position. Two things can be true at the same time, I guess.
I'm just saying, Stormlight Archive did that exact arc, and it wasn't super cringe and hacky when they did it.
Yeah. I mean, it basically turns out, or at least the main character has come to this conclusion that so the reason why he was punished to become penalized to become a hero is because he led his squad into a battle that he was not authorized to, except he maintains the fact that he was authorized to do that. But they're like, oh, you not only were you not authorized to do that, but the unit that you're describing that was meant, I think that was supposed to rescue like a unit or something, that unit does not exist. And I mean, the unit wasn't there, so I mean, evidently they don't. And he was clearly set up. And then he killed the goddess because she like used an excess amount of power, and it caused her to become infected by the blight, which is like this thing that's like spreading through the forest, and the monsters or demons are following.
He intentionally killed her because she was infected with the blight, and it
Yeah,
was like a she'd become a corrupted like evil angel, I guess. And the church maintains that that's not possible and angels can't get infected. So by virtue of that, that just means he murdered an angel for no reason instead.
I mean, he's obviously telling the truth. In the
Yeah.
flashback, we see her infected, and yeah, I mean, he was obviously set up, so now he has a vendetta against the high priest. He wants to unveil his main motivation, it seems, is to unveil his identity and then kill him. It seems like that's like one of his main goals in this. That's pretty much it. I mean, there was like a little bit of breadcrumbs for characters in this, like a tiny bit, but it was mostly we're gonna hook you in with some action. That's mostly what
Yeah.
it
I
was.
mean, you got to remember like we just described the whole plot and most everything that happens, and that was an hour. That
Yeah,
was an hour spaced out between long action scenes that
yeah,
were, in fairness, pretty well animated.
yeah. The animation in this is actually pretty good, which is probably why a lot of people were hyped for it. But what I don't really get was people comparing this to Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah, you told me that, and you told me that right after I watched it, and I was internally like, "What? What?"
There's no similarities. It's not an
Yeah,
isekai for one.
it's literally that it's I'm pretty sure I responded to that like, "Oh, this is like a person who's only seen Mushoku. I'm getting Mushoku vibes from this situation because I can't imagine what else it could be." There's nothing. It's literally just fantasy and there's a lolly in it. And that's where the similarities end.
Well, we don't know. He might nonce that lolly.
Bruh.
Well, actually, they don't have ages, so they wouldn't be noncing. Oh, I actually just assumed that this was done by A1 Pictures, but it's actually done by a studio called Studio Kai, and they did Skeleton Knight.
Nice.
Huh.
Skeleton Knight was not very well animated, so that's kind of surprising.
And Seven Seeds. I can't remember. It's been so long since I watched that. Actually, let me peep the director right quick. Let's see what the director's done.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was the fastest, but that's just one of those shows where I went, it like completely wasted my goodwill. Like I went in with a lot of goodwill and really enjoying it. And over the course of from the first 20-minute mark to the end, I went from that to being like, I have zero interest in consuming more of this.
You know, it's actually funny because when I was watching that, I was like, that seemed pretty inoffensive to me. So I was like, well, like I was expecting like to be like super triggered because, you know.
No, it was just a letdown. It was like, it's the classic thing of it's way worse to get my expectations up and let them down than to just have a thing that's bad from the start.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, I thought that first episode was overall like okay. I could see myself watching this if I was bored, maybe. I just need a little bit more of a reason to actually be invested in what's actually going on. And I assume that since we've gotten the hook you in through action thing out of the way, that episode two would you know, give that. Also, there actually is another similarity between this and Mushoku Tensei, and it's that the director of this was actually a director on that. So there you go. I can kind of see the similarities in there. So. Oh my God. Wait a minute, Arlon. I'm looking at the poster of this, and you will never guess how subversive this poster actually is because it's it's Xylo, the main character, and his sidekick in the foreground, and it's actually the girl that's tucked away in the background. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Very cool.
I mean, you know what? Um, I mean, the FBI is already at my door, so I don't really have anything to lose. That character design, is okay.
Next is you can't be in a rom-com with your childhood friend. Like holy smoke, Scoob! My childhood friend is grinding on me.
Lol.
That's my impression of the main character in this.
I mean, it's pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. It's like, it's kind of like 100 Girlfriends. It seems to be like a subgenre of rom-com where it's like, what if we took
What if we did a generic rom-com, but then like said this is just like a rom-com every time a rom-com thing happens?
well, it's more like what if we took a specific trope and then like pushed it to like the nth degree, I guess. And in this case, it's the childhood friends archetype trope. I mean, I guess it's an archetype too. Usually it's only one character who's the main character's childhood friend, although I guess in this show they all are his childhood friends.
Do you think
And
the lolly and the other two girls that weren't in this episode, do you think they're also childhood friends?
wait, was one of them a lolly? I didn't even
The soft spoken, what's the name of that archetype? There's a name for that.
the kudere? I think
Is
she didn't
that the
really come.
kudere?
She didn't really. The kuderes are like the ones that are like, you know, not shy. They're kind of like serious, but also quiet, emotionally
Oh,
even.
yeah, that I am thinking of a kudere. I
Yeah,
was thinking that meant something else. Okay. Yeah, there's the kudere and
the description seems to imply that these two are the only ones who are actually his childhood friends, but I don't know.
okay, so
If the
there's
whole gimmick is that they're childhood friends, then I wouldn't be surprised if the other two also end up being
yeah,
his
that's
childhood.
that's what I'm saying is like, well, they have to make them all childhood friends for the gimmick to work.
The story is basically just that all of these characters actually want to fuck, but they're too stubborn to actually admit it. And so a bunch of hilarious hijinks ensue where the girls try very desperately to try and come on to the main character, hoping it'll lead to something, but it never actually does.
Yeah, the blue-haired childhood friend literally pulls him over so he'll fall on her boobs and faceplant on her
Yeah,
boobs.
yeah, it's trying to do like the whole like self-aware thing.
It's so self every time anything happens, he says, "Oh my god, this is like just like in a rom-com."
And then he's like, "Oh, but maybe we'll actually commit to doing this. Maybe we'll actually take it to the next." Nah, we can't do that. We're just childhood friends.
And then he says, I have no feelings for you. This is purely a platonic relationship. And then internally he's like, damn it, I thought she liked me, but actually she's just my childhood friend.
And the girls are pretty much doing the same thing, especially the
Yeah.
tsundere girl. I was talking about a tweet earlier that I saw where someone said that like we haven't had like a well like a really like classical because there've been ecchi shows for a while, but like a classical type of ecchi in a very long time. And it kind of seems like this show is very much trying to like pull us back into that whole thing. Because it actually is kind of true what that one specific tweet said about how it's been a very long time since an anime had the elusive, is that the term? Panty shot. And this show has one within like the first like 2 minutes of this.
And it's
And
an
this,
intentional panty shot.
yes,
She did it
because
on purpose.
she's trying to get him to do the ting.
Yeah. But
And
there is an accidental one too.
yeah, there is an accidental one too towards the end of the episode. I definitely get the vibe that like the person who made the manga of this is like a fan of like old rom-coms
Yeah.
because they even have like the same archetypes. It's like, I'm gonna do the Louise Francois Tyga uh wait, what's Tyga's surname? I don't even know Tyga's surname. Where I'm gonna have the, small booba tsundere chick. It's been a really long time since we had that. Usually the small booba archetype is rendered to the kudere, small titties to match the quiet, reserved personality, I guess.
Yes.
And back in the day, back in my day, actually, the small titty chick was the tsundere.
And
Uh,
then the Kudere had really big boobs, but she's short,
no,
right?
that no, the big booba chick was usually like the eccentric, out there personality. You know,
Oh, I gotcha.
it'd be the big booba chick. The big poopa chick would either be like the rich
The big
girl.
poopa.
The the big booba chick would either be like the rich girl or the weird girl who's like kind of a klutz.
Mm.
Sometimes they'd even roll them into one thing. And like it kind of seems like this manga is being made by someone who's very much yearning for those days, for like those early 2000s up to like 2010s kind of thing. And I probably would have preferred if he just did that like straightforwardly instead of this weird like meta. I mean, meta is literally in the tags for this on AniList, by the way. This weird like meta like just write a classical rom-com. I don't know. Also, I will say I am absolutely shocked by the fact that the main character isn't he doesn't even suspect even a little bit that these girls might be into him because I know they were like competing or like arguing about whether or not he's actually good at kissing, but you'd think he'd actually consider like, wait a minute, she's actually like letting me do this in the first place. Wait, what?
Well, he does consider it. In that moment, he's like, "Oh my God, wait, does she actually like me?" And then she like goes tsundere, and he's like, "Oh, I guess not."
Oh yeah, they get interrupted by the blue-haired
Yeah,
girl. But
and
then
then
there's
she
the
goes
other scene
tsundere.
where I think after that, where like the blue-haired girl is, I mean, the dialogue says she's grinding on his thigh, but the way it's animated, they even draw his bulge. Like
I was gonna
she's
mention
grinding
that
on his
he
dick.
did have a boner.
She's grinding on his dick. Like fucking hell, how can you have a girl literally just fucking grinding on your dick and be like,
I'm
ow?
wondering, did she feel his boner? I guess she was too far forward because we could see his boner, so she wasn't on top of his dick.
Well, I mean, the tip was covered.
It was just the tip.
Lol. Yes, it was just the tip. I mean, there was one line of dialogue where when both of them are sitting on him and both of them are grinding on him, the the red-haired girl is like, I can feel the full length of his body. And that's a double entendre. That could be interpreted a variety of ways, but
That does remind me, though. I was kind of thinking about a similar thing. From the girl's POV, it really was making me wonder, like, what is the true version of what's actually happening? Because it kind of seemed like we were switching between their POVs. Because when you're in his POV, he's acting like a rom-com character, being like, "Oh shit, like oh my god, these girls are the ah." But then from their POV, they're like, "Ah, why is he so calm and collected?"
Well, it's kind of funny because when we're like seeing him hanging out with the blue hair girl at the start of the episode, we actually do see him from like her perspective. I mean, it's pretty much implied that he's definitely like restraining his like internal reactions to some extent. And so he actually does appear that way to
It's
everyone.
just the fact that there's literally a part where he's like having trouble controlling his facial expression. So you'd think
Yeah,
that would be, I guess it's just like external, like internally he doesn't, he
yeah.
feels like it's more exaggerated than it actually is. I don't know.
But then there's one scene because like with the you see him actually appearing calm and collected in some scenes, but then there's one scene where he doesn't appear that way at all, and the red-haired girl still says that he looks like that,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird.
So that's what I was
Like,
confused about. But I guess it's just a perspective thing. It's like whose
yeah,
perspective are we following at this moment? In that scene, they were drinking fizzy lemonades, and it reminded me of the time at college that I bought a sparkling lemonade and then I shook it up because I shake up juice. I didn't realize that like sparkling means it's a
yeah,
fizzy drink. So I opened it and it just sprayed lemonade
bro.
everywhere and made a
Well,
giant mess. And fortunately, there was only like one person there to see.
that sounds like you were having a rom-com moment because the main
Yes.
character will then walk in and see your huge tits through your wet clothes.
Yeah, that was the other person. They were the rom-com protagonist that got to see my huge tits.
I bet in that moment you were like, "This is just like a rom-com."
Yeah, that was exactly what I said.
Totally canon Arlon lore. This show leans into the misunderstanding trope a lot, which, I feel like is pretty funny at first, but I can totally like if I'm kind of hoping this is not like all there is to like the humor in this show because I can see this getting pretty tiresome very quickly. I was thinking about like how in other rom-coms, they don't have close calls nearly as much as this show. I mean, this show has like a bunch of close calls in like one episode. And like, other romance shows will have close calls like very sparingly. It's almost like when they're like, "Oh wait, the audience is starting to get bored. Okay, let's have like the the oh shit, we're almost about to do something. Oh no, we didn't do it." Except, when they do it sparingly, even when they do it sparingly, people still eventually end up getting annoyed, especially depending on how long the show is.
I'm a little bit more forgiving of it when it's the point that it's happening all the time. Like if they're taking themselves a little bit more seriously and then they avoid having to progress by throwing one of those in, that really annoys me. But this, it's like, oh, this is like Death Note. This is like Death Note, but a rom com.
That is actually a thing. Love Note.
Yes, I do remember you telling me about that.
That is actually a thing. I mean, yeah, I can see it. I mean, for one, you have it's always happening. So there's never
Yeah.
gonna be like a, you expect it. There's never gonna be a moment where it like comes at you and it raises your expectations, and then your expectations aren't met.
Yeah.
So there is that.
I thought it was the whole gimmick of the childhood friend, the blue haired one. like coming on super strong and intentionally doing the tropes. It felt kind of fresh. It was entertaining enough, and I kind of enjoyed them fighting over him. I wasn't like bored
Yeah.
like the Invisible Man.
Yeah, I did say as soon as we finished watching this that that went over a lot quicker. Same runtime.
Yeah, did not feel like the same runtime. But also the Invisible Man it feels a little bit less trashy. Like I
Yeah,
feel like if I binged a bunch of Invisible Man, I wouldn't feel quite so dirty after.
bro. Well, I feel like this is like appealing to like the same kind of person who would like, I don't know, your Two Love Rues, the classic, the original Two Love Rue. I mean, Two Love Rue Darkness had moments like this too, but you know,
This does feel like something that would have killed it if I was like 15 years old.
lol.
Actually, the grinding scene, there was something I remember. There was a scene just like that in My Bride as a Mermaid. And I remember watching that show on Netflix when I was like 15 and loving it.
You were like, oh, imagine if that was my dick she was grinding on.
Well, no, I just thought it was
Lol.
really funny. I remember like finding it hysterical.
That almost feels like it's like achieving the opposite of the desired effect because it's supposed to be both funny and hot.
I don't know quite what was going through my brain at that moment, but
That was the early hints of the pansexuality, I guess.
yes.
I was looking at the director of this, and you know, at first I was like, oh my God, how the hell did he? Because this show actually looks pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of moments where there are definitely some moments where there's like wonky line art, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. So when I saw that this guy fucking directed Under Ninja, I was like, what the fuck? What? Because Under Ninja looked like shit. If you watched the last season, one of the last seasons we did where we covered that show, you know how I felt about that show. But it also seems like this director definitely has like a type, because like half of the shows in his discography are like harem rom-com shows. He directed Girlfriend Girlfriend, which was a show I actually thought was okay. And he directed the first season of Quintessential Quintuplets, which you know I have not seen, but I heard is pretty good.
You know, this art style kind of reminded me of a less offensive version of the one with the eyes. You know what I'm talking about? The one with the hair. The weird shiny eyes.
Are you talking about Shikimori's
Yeah,
not
Shikimori.
just a cutie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. I feel like this looks a little better than that.
Yeah, that's what I said is like a toned
Uh,
down version of that. Not
yeah,
quite so like a more palatable version of what they were going for.
I was looking at the. I was like, oh, because the studio's called Tezuka Productions, so I was like, is this literally? But it is, I guess, because this guy also directed an Astro Boy project. There you go. It literally is that Tezuka Productions. I guess,
Yeah,
yeah.
Coco, that this was written by Tezuka.
That would be something. One of the things that people like to mention when it comes to Tezuka is the fact that he was actually a lot more degenerate than people give him credit for. And if you look into his more niche works, you'll find some pretty interesting stuff. Like, for example, he was a furry. So,
Let's
and
go.
he's drawn some very interesting furry art. So, you know,
Yeah, it was fine. The characters were kind of unlikable, but it was fine. I give it like a strong 5.
fair enough.
Next is Shiboyugi playing death games to put food on the table. That was horribly depressing.
Lol.
I don't like things that make me feel bad.
I can kind of get that.
So it's a show about
It's Squid Game with anime waifus.
yeah, it's a death game where like everyone is on the same team, which I like. That's like my least favorite thing about death games is they
Well,
tend to be zero sum.
I thought the
So
implication was that for some reason I thought there was going to be other teams in this, and like they would eventually like run into like another team, and some kind of conflict would happen, and that just it never did.
it's more of like a saw type thing. They're being put through horrible death puzzle things.
They're on the same team, and I guess their willingness to actually like try and be cooperative with each other is kind of stress test in every game that they go through.
Yeah. But here's what I didn't like about it is that it still felt very zero sum at the end of the day. Like, okay, if I was actually watching a show like this, like if this was an actual thing and I was, well, I guess I wouldn't watch this if this was real. But let's say I was a sadistic rich person and I was watching this.
Just throwing this out there, anyone who watches Mr. Beast content, Arlon has called all of you out as sadistic motherfuckers.
Yes, I am, unironically. But I want to feel like there's a possibility that everyone can make it out alive. But the games in this very much felt designed around, and I mean, it's super apparent with that last quote unquote game.
The last one just point blankly is like, yeah, so only two of you can leave. Three,
Yeah, it was three.
yeah, only three of you can leave. So,
So it's like, okay, nothing before that mattered because ultimately only three of them were going to leave at the end of
because
the
in
day.
all the other ones, it definitely felt like everyone could. Well, actually, no, it didn't. Because if you think about it, let's say they all weren't like if they actually were cooperating with the keys and they actually did take turns and they didn't waste time fighting for the keys, eventually they'd get to the elevator where like there's no way like five people can go on that.
How many did they start with? Was it six?
Yeah, I think it was six because four of them went on there.
Yeah, because one died in the first game, then one died in the second game.
Yeah, so there's
So,
there's no way like
um,
all of,
well, they all cut off.
they cut off one leg
They cut
each,
off one
and
leg.
they cut their hair and they cut their hair.
So, so they could, if they all cut off both legs, they would have been fine. And they actually would have gotten to the exit because there weren't actually any traps in the stair room. It was literally just climbing down some stairs.
Yeah,
I feel like even if they lost like everything but an arm, they still could have made it down the stairs.
yeah, they just would have been crawling there.
Yeah, they would have been
And
sliding
you
down.
fortunately get everything reattached in the end, which is
Yeah,
nice.
that's the thing. It was kind of silly that they were seriously, oh, we have to kill one of us because we don't want to cut off our arms, even though we literally will be able to get them attached in like an hour.
You'll be able to get them reattached, and like you can't like die of blood loss. That's not really a concern either.
Yeah, they have like stuffing for some reason.
It was something to it has something to do with how their bodies are put. Oh, one, it has something to do with how their bodies are put back together, and two, it's because of squeamish people watching the game and the thing.
It's diagenic di-
It's in universe
diagenic
censorship.
censorship. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I guess they just get their actual blood put back into their body along with reattached limbs when all is said and done.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of MGS2, where they just drain Raiden out of all of his blood because they don't want the enemy to use it to track him down or whatever. I forget what the explanation was.
I just really didn't like that. If I can think about every challenge and think, okay, here's how they all could have made it out, then I can appreciate it a lot more because then I'm just rooting for everyone to survive.
I guess that's kind of what they're trying to make you consider, right?
I don't really have a preference of any one character over the other for them to survive.
Hmm.
So it makes it feel kind of pointless, I guess. That's my main frustration with this.
I guess the whole thing is supposed to be, well, in retrospect, they could have done that. That's kind of like the point, I guess. I was actually surprised that like half of the characters actually did die by the end of this. Because I'm just saying that like the poster just is these characters.
I guess each episode is going to be a new death game since she got out.
Well, I was looking at like the manga, like on the page for the manga, and like new characters do come in, but like also it's not. From what I could tell, it didn't look like it was nearly enough to like replace all of them. So I'm guessing some of them will reappear in some instances. Obviously not the ones that died.
I'm sure they will come back, but I'm assuming it was just one of those marketing, like
Yeah,
avoiding spoilers in the marketing thing. You
yeah.
see that sometimes where the like Madoka type stuff will just market itself like all that shit's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, for what it's worth, I can certainly appreciate when you do that because, it kind of reminds me of when I was playing Etern Knights, and like you start with like three other characters in your party at the very start of the game, and it's like it's so obvious which one of those characters is going to die because she's the only character that is not. I mean, for what it's worth, we're talking about the first 10 minutes, so I guess there's no need for a misdirect. But like it's so obvious which character is going to die because she's the only one that is not on the poster, or like the banners or the promo material for all these characters in this game. And I think what makes it even funnier is that she's the only character that does, not counting the ending, which is kind of embarrassing. But yeah, actually, like you briefly mentioned before, it is not one ongoing death game for the whole season. It will, I mean, I'm assuming it'll be a series of death games
Well,
because
she wants to win 99 of them for
yeah,
some
she wants
reason.
to win 99 games, and this is her 28th, and the episode literally ends with her completing her 28th game.
Man, that had me wondering like how much money do they get paid for this? Because it didn't look like she was living particularly well. But
Maybe she's just a gamer, you know?
usually with this type of thing, you assume that
You end up being
it's
set
going to
for
be a
life.
huge sum of money because they're trying to
Yeah.
like pay off a big debt or whatever. But like that's generally the reason why you'd submit yourself to a death game.
That was one of the character's motivations in this is that. But
Yeah.
I feel like the fact, I mean, unless it ends up being revealed that there's like a very she wants to accrue like an insane amount of money for like a specific reason. I low key feel like it's because she's a gamer, but like with real life in a
Lol.
real game, in a real death game. Lol.
Nice.
We'll find out, I guess.
So you liked the animation.
Yeah, I thought the animation in this was I was a little anxious at
I
first
felt
and
like they were leaning on it a little bit too hard. Like they kept switching into the like minimalist style, so they're just sitting there without animating anything.
I did want to touch upon that where it's like I can appreciate the artistry with doing that minimalist painterly thing, but also it kind of just happens. There's never really like a lot of the time it's specifically when they do like full distance shots, full body shots. It
Yeah.
kind of just happens. There's no like context reason for it happening, so it can be kind of jarring. It's especially jarring when you have like a character in the foreground that's fully rendered with the line art and stuff, and then a character in the background that's done in that style. It's a bit weird. But I mean, besides that, I mean, I feel like the animation in this was like pretty good. I was a bit anxious at the start because the movement early on kind of felt like shitty CGI-esque. I mean, but then and to the point where I even was wondering if it was CGI because some of that the movement. some of the movement in like the first like 2 minutes of the episode looked pretty three-dimensional, but then for the rest of it, it just looked hand drawn. So I was like, oh, okay. Or maybe there was like a rotoscoping thing going on. I don't know, but I thought the animation was pretty good, which is surprising because this anime is done by Studio Dean, which I mean, I'm assuming Dean has some pretty decent looking anime out there. But whenever I hear people talk about Studio Dean, uh, it's not positive, especially as of recently with my consumption of Fate media. People are like, that 2006 Fate anime is kind of so yeah, but
They had it kind of reminded me of like an Angel Beats with the way they had the far apart eyes a little bit,
mhm.
and the colors were a little bit more out there.
I mean they someone was definitely there's a specific artist that the art style reminds me of, but I can't remember their name. I really wish I could. But it's like this one like anime artist who has like insane like detail, especially in things like the eyes. There's like this like reflection thing going on. I don't know how to describe it. I should be able to as an artist, but I can't. Lol. And I guess I wanted to briefly touch on the tone of this.
It
It's
was
a
really hashtag deep. They opened with the quote where it's like, "This is a show about a twisted world."
well, I was kind of talking about like the sort of the kind of low, quiet, kind of chill thing it's got going on for most of its runtime outside of when things are going to shit, like in that one area with the saws and shit. It kind of I have to admit it actually did keep me on edge a little bit, and I did have a jump scare moment when that girl got killed with the
That was actually really disturbing the way they did that.
yeah.
You really got the sense that that was a person that did not want to die horribly and then died horribly.
It just happens, and it actually did make me jump because
It
of
was
like
very disturbing.
the quiet, kind of fever dreamish feeling of this. That's what it feels like a little bit. Um,
Man, I was thinking she should have. Why didn't she just sacrifice her hand? She should have just pulled her lever.
but with that, oh, and when the blades are falling towards them,
Yeah, well, they couldn't pull the levers because it would cut off their hand. Like the handcuffs would cut off their hand.
yeah.
But
But would that turn it off though?
I don't know. But like, if the saw is about to murder you, you should at least try, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, easy for me to be backseat gaming on these people in a death game, but
For a split second, it looked like all that girl lost was her arm, and I thought that she survived, but then she
yeah,
didn't, and she was actually dead.
I didn't understand
Because
why it was. Oh, I guess it her did her handcuff like go off after she died or something?
maybe,
I don't know. Or maybe she like ripped off her hand trying to just freaking out.
yeah. But I would have figured like her full body would have been destroyed. And there was definitely a moment at the end of that scene where we clearly see like a full body that's intact that doesn't have an arm. But it's not any of the girls that survived, I don't think. So I don't know. That part kind of confused me a little bit. But then it's like, oh, wait, no, she actually is dead. Oh, okay. Moving on.
You know what? I was also confused about what happened in the elevator part where like it looked like the girl killed herself, but then she just didn't.
I think she like cut herself a little bit and then she probably passed out from shock of doing
Oh,
that.
what was the deal with the main girl Yuki?
Hmm.
Uh she like whispered something to the other
Oh,
girl that and she it looked like she like stabbed her or something. I was really confused about what happened there.
um, you know what? It's actually very possible that in that scene she told the pink girl what her plan was. Like she recognized that the blonde girl was the tiniest person in the room, so that at the end when they'd all have to kill each other, she'd be the easiest to deal with.
Well, she specifically said at the end that she didn't.
She
She
did
just
that
said
because
she
she
was
was
the
the
closest.
closest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. That was weird. Maybe she was about to say something, but she didn't because she fell. Whatever. I mean, I'm assuming this is one of the characters who is going to be reoccurring at some point, and maybe we'll get some insight into that.
Yeah, they might bring it up again. In terms of like how well made it is, I feel like it might be the most well made show we
Yeah,
uh this season.
I was gonna say that I forgot to mention this when talking about the directing, but it felt like I don't really know how to describe this because there's some anime that feel this way and then some anime that don't. And this isn't even necessarily like a marker of quality per se, but this episode did feel like an anime movie rather than a TV show. I mean, it does help that it was longer than your average anime episode, but something about like the directing and everything just felt very much like that. I don't know how to describe it, but
But in terms of like my appreciation, I guess I'd give it like a 7. But in terms of my actual experience, I give it like a strong 3 to a light 4 because it made me feel bad.
bam.
I mean, it's not the worst for me in terms of death games because I did kind of like the main girl was kind of interesting, and I did like that at least there were multiple survivors instead of just one.
It seems like it's implied that she kind of had like a split personality thing going on there. Because, like, with some of her
No,
narration, she's referring to herself in both the first and third person.
oh, I didn't really notice that. I mean,
Yeah, they like overlay the dialogue, and if you listen carefully, even though they're saying the same thing from like her perspective, one is describing her from a third person and one is from the first person.
oh, so that's what that was. I didn't quite understand what was going on there. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And then her last narration at the end was exclusively in third person. I don't know what was
Yeah.
going on there,
I think
but
she's got like a super compartmentalizing thing going on there.
I guess that makes sense.
She leaves her feelings outside the death game.
Yeah. Also, I do like the fact that early like in the early on in the episode, they do literally say the Giga meme. If you die in the game, you die in real life, which is funny because that when I heard that line, I was like, well, but this isn't like a VR thing. Like this isn't so like of course if you die, you're dead. So why did they
They should just do that with like any game show. Just any game show people go on. They're like, and if you die for real.
yeah,
Because it's technically
people
true.
people die when they're killed. That did actually make me raise an eyebrow for a second. It's like, wait, is this a
Yeah.
video game or are we doing some SAO shit? But it's not. I don't think so.
Yeah, it definitely was not. The next show we're going to be talking about is You and I Are Polar Opposites. Do you
Yes.
want to summarize this one, Coco?
Uh, no.
It's about a Gyaru who really likes a nice autistic boy and talks his ear off.
A reserved guy. We don't know if he's autistic. That seems a little bit ableist of you on him.
Nah. She talks about how he's so direct and candid.
Yes. The premise is that they're the exact opposite of each other, as the show suggests, because she's the loud, talkative type
Yeah, she's extremely bubbly.
who is actually pretty reserved with her actual feelings and is actually quite performative.
Mm,
Whereas
but
the
she
guy,
is like extremely transparently into him.
yeah,
She's like blushing. She's freaking out every time he talks to her.
yeah,
And apparent, I mean, we don't find out till the end of the episode, but apparently he's into her too. And
yeah,
internally, he's just like, well, maybe she's just Canadian.
Lol. It's the reverse version of the waifu show, the format that we've discussed in previous seasons, where the show is actually from the perspective of the girl entering the boring guy's life. It's actually like the person who wrote the manga for this was like, I wonder how I could like really like subvert like this trope, and then we got this one.
I guess that is basically what happened.
Yeah.
I'm pretty favorable towards this sort of thing because I'm a big fan of Gyaru's. I'm a big fan of that trope of that pairing with the anything with like the juxtaposition of the nerd and the
Ah.
cool person having a romance or a bromance is always.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say the bubbly person and the serious person, because then I was gonna say, oh, so
Yeah,
you're a
sure.
Chad Amy shipper. I see how it is.
Actually, I am. I do think that's my favorite Amy and Shadow ship.
Fair enough.
Well, like you can't ship Shadow with Rouge because Rouge I feel like should go with Knuckles, and you can't ship Amy with Sonic because that's a toxic pairing.
Yeah. Well, Sega does that thing where they're like, oh, Rouge actually likes both of them because she's a huge, big-titted whore.
Yes. Nah, they're just good friends.
Actually, they're colleagues.
Lol.
But the show, though.
Was pretty good. It was very cute. It
Mhm.
it was good vibes, a good palate cleanser after that
Yeah,
last show.
I'm not gonna lie. If I were to continue this, I would have to read it because, you know, I suspect that even if I were to watch this subbed, there's no way this character does not sound annoying in either version of the. I feel like I definitely have to read it. As of recently, I just find like the really, call it sexist if you want to. I find the bubbly, hyperactive character to be especially annoying if the character is a girl because they have the voice. They have like an extremely annoying voice to listen to every time.
That's pretty unfair to judge it based off this dub because it was extremely over the top in this dub.
It's because of how high pitched their voices are, and that is just like intrinsically tied to
She
the fact that it
literally
is
screamed. She literally screamed in this dub.
the reason why I'm saying it's sexist, like I'm calling myself out and saying it's sexist, is because women's voices are already, well, I mean, yeah, are already pretty high to begin with. So that when you like make it even higher, it's like, and then on top of that, they're like hyperactive and constantly like raising their voices. Like Jesus Christ, holy shit! Although I do like
Man,
Sticks the Badger.
Coco is really coming in here. I'm like, no, like I understand it. It's like she was really over the top, and she's like, no, I am misogynistic. I hate women.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that if guys sounded like this, then I would probably, but like guys don't have high pitched voices, so it's like not as annoying. Let me put it this
I
way.
don't know, man.
Let me put it this way. I actually used to find Luffy pretty annoying because of his voice. And that's part of the reason why I don't even really hate the idea of like, remember those old like Funimation clips that I showed you where they had Luffy actually being voiced by a guy? Like, I don't really hate the idea of them doing that, to be honest. I feel like Luffy would be way less annoying if they actually did do that.
I feel like you're not giving the male pervert character his due because I would rather listen to 10 of this girl than like a Minetta.
I feel like that trope is not really a thing anymore, is it? We've been watching seasonals for a while now.
Minetta.
Like, when was the last time? Well, I mean, yeah, but that manga started in 2015. I mean, come on.
I feel sure we've seen at least one show with that character this season.
I feel like nowadays, generally, whenever you have like at least from what I've noticed, whenever you have like the pervy character in like an edgy series, they usually make the character a girl because for some reason they're under the impression that having sexual assault is somehow more acceptable if it's a girl doing it to other
Yeah.
girls. And it's like, okay, sick, good job.
I agree that archetype has definitely fallen by the wayside a little bit, but I feel like it's still a thing.
Yeah.
You can still find it where it is to be found.
But like on the bubbly voice, like I'm just thinking, I made the joke that this character sounds like Tangle, uh, because recently they released the Tangle and Whisper had their first ever voice appearance in the audio drama that they've been posting on the Sonic Twitter recently. And for some reason, people are still coping about the canon status of these characters. I don't know why. I just stop. Like, I don't care for these characters, but I just move on with my day and I don't say shit. Except for that one time I did comment about how they do actually feel a little bit astroturfed. But the point is,
I like their designs.
Tangle has this archetype, and she sounds exactly like this in that. And I remember when the thing first came out, I specifically commented, Tangle sounds exactly how I thought she would sound, and that is not a good thing. And it's not. It's not a good thing.
I think she sounds fine.
It's not a good thing. I've heard fan takes of this that are like a little bit. Obviously, she's a hyperactive, bubbly character, so she's gonna sound like that regardless. But I've definitely heard fan takes of this character that are a little bit more restrained, I think, which kind of adds to your point about what you were saying about the character in this show, where like some voice actors are like way over the top with it, and this one was. This one definitely was where, although I did say that there were some moments where she kind of sounded like fellow podcast member Megan. So I feel like
Damn,
it's kind of
Coco hates Megan because she's a woman.
damn.
Yeah, Megan actually wanted to come on this episode, but Coco was like, "I'm sorry, you can't. You just sound too much like a woman."
I guess what I'm saying is henceforth, whenever they do the bubbly character, we should mandate that the best way to guarantee that the character will not sound annoying is if the character is specifically voiced by a trans woman whose voice does not pass at all. If we make that like the mandate for voicing these kinds of characters going forward, I think I will be more likely to accept these kinds of characters going forward. Or you know what? They don't even have to be trans women that don't have passing voices. If it's like a cisgendered woman who smokes like a lot, like to the point where it's practically impossible for them to make themselves sound this high pitched, I think I'd be okay with these kinds of characters going forward. That's my stance on this.
Uh, no comment on anything you just said.
But you see, I just proved that I'm not sexist because I just said that it's totally fine if these characters are voiced by women, just as long as they have deep voices.
I thought it was really cute. The art, I really enjoyed. Great art style, good colors. I like the main girl's design.
It reminds me of the remake version of Urusei Yatsura. That's what I thought of when I was looking at this.
I feel like Urusei Yatsura is a little bit bolder with its colors and designs.
Yeah. Actually, let me look at the studio for this real quick. Okay, it's another studio I have not heard of. Oh, but they did work on one of the many episodes of Tatsumaki Fujimoto, 1726. Ah, there's not anything on here that I recognize besides that, though. Let's take a quick look at this director. Yeah, it's the same thing. That's pretty much all I have to say on that.
It was pretty good. I'd give it a strong 6 to a light 7. I could see myself watching more of this. I feel like I could enjoy it. I feel like I would enjoy it quite a bit more subbed.
Yeah, I would peep the sub, and if it's not ear, I would happily watch the sub, and if it is ear, Well, I'd say I'd read the manga, but I feel like if this doesn't pass the anime test, I'm probably not gonna read it either. So I feel like for me to read a manga, I have to be pretty enthusiastic about that. So,
Yeah, sure. All right, Coco. Well, how did you feel about this season?
you know, it wasn't that bad. There have been more boring seasons, but I might have embellished the details a little bit on how I.
That's definitely true. I Coco definitely sold me some very false advertising because she was hyping up the season like, oh, Arlon, we simply must talk about it. There's so many like crazy good shows.
Well, if
We
I
can't miss
hadn't
this
done that,
one.
we wouldn't have done this season. And we're slacking.
And then I wouldn't have to be frantically editing the podcast the day before I leave on
And
vacation.
also, just, Annie Twitter is the one that hypes things up the most. It's Annie Twitter's fault. I mean, for what it's worth, part of the reason why I was enthusiastic about this season is because, like, once this season actually began and I looked at the seasonal chart, I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? I already have like 5 shows from this season in my plan to watch, like completely by chance.
It's because you're a rom-com head.
That's gotta speak for something. I mean, it's because every now and then I'll see like an anime come up on Twitter, and I'll be like, oh, that looks interesting. Let me quickly read the description on AniList. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting enough. Slam it in my plan to watch. And then this season happened. It happened to contain. Like through that process, I already
It's
have.
the season of love.
Through that process, I looked at like the next season, and I already have like 2 seasons from the next two shows from next season in my plan to watch already by sheer coincidence. Just pretty funny.
Well, maybe we'll talk about next season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. This is definitely by no means the worst season we've covered.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't any super banger standout show for me. Probably my favorite was the school announcements one.
Oh, tune into the Midnight Heart.
Yes, tune into the Midnight Heart. That one, I'm feeling pretty tempted to go back and watch some more of. I might watch some more of you and I are polar opposites, but neither of them I'm like crazy about. But it was mostly like very neutral, just feel good. Like I can sit through those and be like, ah. It's not like I came out of the season being like, oh my god, I was just subjected to 7 just
There
nothing
was no
nothing shows.
there was no Buta Reba. Well, I actually have quite a few shows that ended up in my pause list. Whether or not I'll actually watch them is a whole other conversation entirely, because I feel like whenever I want to watch a new show, I generally tend to go to my plan to watch them I paused. I put Fate Strange Fake in there. I'm a little bit annoyed to find out that for me to really like I saw people being like, well, if you really want to understand what's going on in Fate Strange Fake, you gotta go and watch Fate Zero. Fortunately, I don't have to watch any of the fucking uh adaptations of Fate Stay Night because I just read Fate Stay Night, so I at least got that out of the way. I agreed that I probably would watch Tune into the Midnight Heart. Um, you know, kind of curious about Shiboyugi, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean that show definitely made me feel bad, but I did find myself thinking about it after the fact, like,
This show is really profound.
no, I
Whoa.
mean, not. I mean, it was kind of profound. I'll give it credit. I don't want to be like too hard on it just because it didn't appeal to my sensibilities.
hmm
It's one of those things where it's kind of sat with me after the fact, and it's like, I can feel it pulling on me, but
Yeah.
I feel like it would make me feel bad if I tried to watch more. So
No, here's what you do. You watch that, and then you watch something positively uplifting immediately after the fact.
Well, that's kind of what we did, except you you slept a day between the episodes.
Listen, my circadian rhythm, or whatever it's called, is
Circadian.
circadian rhythm is not the greatest. But the good thing is, I managed to fix it exactly in time for today so that I wouldn't be out like a light today. Although I kind of hope that I actually am able to go to sleep tonight because technically last night I was asleep since like 6 p.m. and then I woke up at I woke up at like quarter to 8 in the morning, so that's not good, but we'll see what happens.
Nice. Well, I would call that a perfect 6 out of 10. Just the most normal, all right season we've watched.
Yeah.
But I guess I do appreciate the theme, even if I'm not a rom com guy.
Yes, this was. Well, it's not necessarily that this was an overwhelmingly rom-com season. There were plenty of non-rom-com seasons, but I kind of spearheaded the shows we were watching this season, and they
I
kind
mean,
of
the
just
top show this season is a rom com. We just didn't watch it.
I kind of just ended up making our line like mostly
I think
rom.
there are quite a few. Like scrolling down the list, it's like Shiboyugi is like 15 shows down, and everything above that that isn't a sequel is a rom com. Uh, Shoutouts. I'm currently working on an auto battler called Stick Syndicate. It's kind of inspired by the Bazaar, if you've heard of that, or Monster Train. So go wishlist that on Steam. You can also read my comic at BigBilly'sAdventureEverywhere.website. What about you, Coco?
You can find all of my links on my link tree. I don't really have any currently ongoing projects, which is probably something I should be working on fixing.
Start your
So,
comic! Start your
so not
comic, damn it!
not really much to shout out at the moment. Oh, except for this weird thing that happened where I realized that I totally can just make a video that's 5 minutes and it doesn't actually have to be that long at all. Once I realized I can make a video that is 5 minutes, I was like, wait, holy shit. I could, there are so many things I could make, but do not expect anything because I'm a lazy motherfucker. So,
Coco commissioned me to make a VTuber for her,
alright.
like probably like 2 years ago, and then it took me a year to finish it because I'm a procrastinator. But then I finished it, and it took me a year, and then Coco was like, "I will now proceed to not use this ever, even once."
I literally can't. Like, like VTube Studio does not.
Oh, because VTube Studio is racist.
It does not read my face properly. Like, unironically, it might actually be because of that. But so I need to get a ring light to light up my face. And obviously, I've had financial problems, we'll just put it that way. So
Damn.
I haven't really been able to buy a ring light to light up my face.
I feel sure there's a way to be doing this. I mean, I remember I what I used to do is I'd get a flashlight and then I would point it at like the wall so the light would bounce off the wall and then hit my face but
I,
not be like too overwhelming.
I think it's a combination of that and also having a shit camera. Because I have to use the camera that's on my phone because my monitor, I mean, most monitors probably don't even have a webcam.
Damn.
So I have to use the camera on my phone and connect it to my PC. So it's kind of annoying. Whatever, I'm working on it. Streaming is like the easiest thing out of all of the things I want to do. So nah, actually I'm talking shit. It's actually the most soul-sucking thing ever, and it's actually way harder than a real job.
All right, I think that's it. Everyone say bye.
Bye.
Bye.